welcome to my channel. I do so many different I do so many different hamster cages on my channel that today I wanted to show you guys something different. I know I've done this a few times in my videos where I know I have a few videos where I show how you can get things for cheap, or like different things that you can get for your hamster on the budget, just so that you can see that you don't have to spend all this money that you're seeing other people doing just to be able to give your hamster what you want them to have. A lot of things that you see, you can always DIY them really easily. So this video is for you guys, those that want to give your hamster everything that you want them to have without having to splurge so much. Ash, what are you doing? So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing that you want to start with, of course, is your hamster enclosure. So obviously you have many different hamster cages on the market. I also, if you would like to know, I did post a video stating my hamster cages favorites, or whatever it was for the year. So if you like, you can look at one of those, and I will have that link up here, and then I'll also have a link down below in the description box. But if you want to get your hamster cage on the budget and you don't want to spend hundreds of dollars, or like close to, then I am going to show you the first thing that you need, which is your hamster cage, which will be a bin cage. Obviously, a lot of people already know about the bin cages. This is a very popular thing for people to have now. So obviously, when you do this, you're going to make sure you have a mesh lid, but because this is just for this video, I'm not going to show that. If you'd like to know how to make a mesh lid for your enclosure, there's a lot of videos on those on YouTube, so obviously you can just watch a tutorial there, but it's really easy. So when you have a bin cage, yes, you can have a bin cage, but you also want to make sure your bin cage is the right cage size. So my first recommendation is at least a 200 quart liter. Is it 200 quart? I don't know. I just recommend a 200 and above. Of course, if you come during, or if you purchase one during Christmas time, you can get one that's a lot bigger and for cheaper. They fix the camera, but the first thing you want is a 200 quart bin or greater. Just make sure that you're reaching the 450 minimum space, and you also make sure your bin enclosure is tall enough, just so that you're making sure that your hamster can climb out. And also, when you're creating your ventilation for your bin cage, I would recommend cutting out along the sides. I would recommend just for the lid, just because if you do it along the sides, then obviously you won't be able to put enough bedding, which is something that you definitely want to do. So the next thing I'm going to show you is your bedding. I have the Carefresh Bedding, and I think it's like the 56 liter. No, it's the 50 liter. So I have the 50. There's a lot of different beddings that you can pick from as well. You got Carefresh Bedding, which prices varies. Your bin cage you can usually get for around like 40 bucks, depending on what size you get and during what time you get it in. Did he just try to slap me? But the bedding, you can get it from multiple places. You can also have gypsy bedding. If you use gypsy bedding, I would definitely recommend mixing it with hay, just because I'm not quite sure how well it holds the burrows. So you do want to use hay depending on which bedding you're using, just because you want to make sure your hamster burrows can be stabilized and they won't be falling. So in this video I'm gonna use Carefresh, but you have many different paper beddings. Walmart has a version, I believe it's called like Uber bedding. It's actually a really nice paper bedding. There's a lot of different paper beddings out there, or you can use gypsy. You can make your own bedding. This is completely up to you. Just make sure it's completely safe for your hamster. I'm just gonna pour this bedding into my enclosure. You do want to make sure you have at least 6 inches. So mine won't be 6 inches just because, like I said, it's literally just for the video. So this is just a guideline on the way for you to be able to do this. So I'm just going to try and cover up at least the bottom of the enclosure, of the bin, just because I don't really need the 6 inches. This is just for demonstration purposes. My bedding inside the bin, as you can see, obviously I didn't fill up the whole thing just because I don't need to, just because, like I said, it's for demonstrations. But you want to make sure you fill up the bedding as much as you can. At least try to aim for like in the middle, but make sure obviously when you're using it that you compress the bedding down to make sure it's actually flat, because if not, then it's just gonna flatten as your hamster walks. Next thing that you're gonna use is completely optional and depends on your bedding. So most paper-based bedding you can actually get away without having to use hay, but if you're using like Gypsy or Aspen, I recommend putting hay in there. The one hay that you do want to use is orchard grass hay. So here's a bag of orchard grass hay. As you can see, I don't even have the biggest bag. It comes in obviously larger sizes, but I always just get the smallest bag because, but usually I don't re-add the hay afterwards. So this is completely up to you. You can usually get your orchard grass hay for like not even 10 bucks, probably like around $8 depending on where you are. So if you want, you can sprinkle this depending on which bedding you're using. For the video, I will. Not only does it help with their burrows, but it also adds new texture for your hamster. And I also like it just because it adds so much color, or it adds color to your cage. So now you want to start adding your enrichment, because we got the bedding in, so we got the substrate all in. So now you want to start putting in your enrichment. Your enrichment is usually can be a DIY. I promise you guys, more than half the stuff that you see online can be DIY with just cardboard. So do like really look into like Reddit or like YouTube videos of hamster DIYs, because there's so many out there that you do not have to buy like $20 items or anything expensive just to make something. You can always just go to the store and get your own wood, so you can have plenty to make more. Or you can literally just get an old box from a package. You can get a cereal box. Like, there's a lot of things you can use. Just make sure you remove everything that's off of it and it's actually safe for your hamster, obviously. One of the things I like to use in my enclosures are these multi-chambers. Like I said, this is something that you can literally DIY. Before I bought one, I actually DIY one with just out of cardboard. I was going to show you guys like how to DIY everything, but because this video would be super long if I did that, I'm just not going to. There's a lot of videos already out there, so there's no point in me making another one. So if you decide to make this, honestly, this and the Hideout is probably the easiest things I've ever made before for my hamster. So usually I would get this. So if you make it, obviously it's free. I think I paid like no more than $15 for this. So I will put this in here. Obviously you can put it wherever you want, so this setup's completely up to you. Usually I like these to be sitting on the sides, just that way when your hamster is running across you can see them. So you can see I have my multi-chamber right here, and I have some bedding, and I also have my hay. Ignore this, I used to have moss on here and I used to have it glued down. So this is where I like my multi-chamber to be, usually along the sides. But when you have more bedding, you can always have your bedding higher so that it completely covers it, or you can use it as a simple platform for your heavy objects. Now we have some toys coming in. The next thing I'm going to show you guys that I actually can't put in here because Rhino has both of them, so I don't have another multi-chamber, is your multi-chamber hideout. So this one also is a DIY thing. You can DIY the exact same way as your multi-chamber that I just showed you guys with a cardboard box, which is another thing that I made. But this one, since it is your own, you can make it however many rooms that you want it to have. So if you want to only have 2, you can make it have 2. If you want to have 4, you can, and so on and so forth. This is definitely one of the easiest things you can make. You can also make your own lid for it. I will say though, if you're making your own out of cardboard, I would make sure that not only is the lid on really well and you put bedding on top just to make sure your hamster toes don't get stuck in it, but I would also be careful with what objects I placed on top, just because it is cardboard, so it's not exactly meant to hold so much weight, because obviously you get cardboard, you can bend it, so definitely be careful about that. And also, depending on if you buy one or not, you can buy one literally just about anywhere. I usually don't like to use the clear ones just because they let in so much light that I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose of a hideout, because a hideout is usually somewhere it's supposed to be dark and like a safe comfort zone. So I will definitely get something dark if you want to. I recommend multi-chamber hideout just because it's the most natural thing for a hamster. We get your multi-chamber hideout. If you get the one from online, you're usually paying about $20 depending on which size you get. So you could pay $20 or you can just DIY off cardboard again. So you can place that wherever you want. But like I said, I'm not going to use it just because Rhino has both of them. There's nothing I can do with it. So now we're going to start adding more enrichment and toys. So the basic is always just, you just want to add like, so here's one of my houses that I have. I literally have bedding in here because it gets stuck, but it's just a moth house. Now you can just add your own little toys in here if you want. This is literally I believe I got from the Hamster Mail online. So I'm just gonna put this in here. So like any other toys or accessories that you have, you will just fill it up and decorate it. Here's another hide. It's a ceramic dish, which is perfect for when the summertime comes. It's a good space for your hamster to cool off. But if you don't have one, you can literally also buy your hides from like your Dollar Tree or dollar stores or like thrift stores, just because you can often find like old candle holders for your hamster. So you can literally get them for like $2 or $3 depending on where you go, and they're often really cute. Put more. Here's like some I swear every time I go to say this name I can never remember, but here's like some cork locks. I don't know, but here's some cork locks that I have. You can get these from Amazon. And then I'm just gonna put this in here. These often come in packs, so you can get like 3 or 4 in them for like $10 maybe. And then also have another hide. A lot of these things you can also get from like your local pet stores. I just usually like to provide more than 2 hides in my enclosure, just because if you want to be able to give them that option. So going to add in this seesaw, a Bendy Bridge. If you use Bendy Bridges, you see how this one doesn't really have any cracks in it. I don't know if you can tell, but how it's actually like pretty smooth, except like right here. When you look for your bridges, definitely try to find something that's like this, just because if not, your hamster toes can get stuck in here, and you definitely don't want that to happen because it will cause it to break. So if you don't have one like this with no space or cracks in between, I definitely recommend putting like tissue paper or like moss in between it, or just filling it in with even just your paper bedding so you don't have to buy even more things. So I'm just gonna put this bedding in here. I want to give your hamster plenty of chews, just because their teeth are always going, so you definitely want to give them options to be able to trim them back down. So here's a chew I'm gonna give to him. I always like to provide different varieties. Apple chew stick, which is the most basic thing you can get. You can literally get these at your PetSmart, Petco, or anywhere for like $1 or $2. It's like a whole pack filled of them. And then here's another chew. I'm also going to add in a grapevine. When I add this grapevine in, I do want to mention the fact that you can use sticks that you find outside. Just make sure that they're safe and that you disinfect and clean them thoroughly. You can also find rocks from outside. Just do the same thing with those as well, of course. Just make sure that it's really clean, just to make sure you're not bringing in any insects or any like bugs or just anything into your hamster's enclosure. So you can always find a lot of your stuff outside, such as your rocks and your branches and sticks. It's super easy. Just make sure, like I said, that you're being safe with what you're using, and make sure that what you're using from outdoors hasn't been treated with anything chemically. Talk about their food. Hamsters, I definitely recommend giving them the Sunburst hamster enjoyable food, and then also mix with the Rat and Missouri mass blocks. You can literally get this bag. I think it's like $5 or $6. For me it is. It also always depends on where you are, but I literally can get this for like $5 or $6 for a good sized bag. And I had this bag for quite a bit of time now. These bags, I don't know why they last so long, but they really do. So I probably have to buy it like once every 2 months, so this bag actually will last you. And then also get the Rat Missouri blocks, like I mentioned, and I think that bag is like $4. So both foods are like under $10 to get, and I like to mix these just because you want to make sure you give your hamster enough protein, but obviously don't overfeed your hamster. If you have a younger hamster, this is something that you could skip on buying, is a food bowl. Most people scatter feed their hamsters, so I also scatter feed, so I barely even use a food bowl like Rhino, because he is still okay. I'm noticing that he still has no problem walking around and he's not getting to that elderly state. I usually don't put food in his food, but I may put like a bit in a pile like on top of his multi-chambers, just because I can see it, so like I know if he actually touched it or not. But yeah, you can always skip out buying the food bowl and just have a water bowl or a water bottle, whichever one you prefer. I recommend water bowls, but whichever one you prefer to have, or whichever one, you know, just whichever one you can have. So you can skip out having the food bowl and just scat feed your hamster and just put some of it in the pile on a flat surface. That way you can essentially know if your hamster is actually eating the food or not. Water bowls or water bottles, if you get the water bowls, it's like this size, and you can get them either from Amazon, Niteangel. A lot of companies are starting to have them now, or you can just buy a tea light holder, I believe is what it is, and you can find them anywhere, such as your local dollar stores. They will literally cost you like $1 because they're super cheap and they're glass. So it's a really cheap way to give your hamster water without having to buy a water bottle, because the water bottles, not only do you have to worry about like the cleanings a lot more, but you also have to make sure that like the ball is operating, because some water bottles, the ball that be inside the nozzle does not like work. And I know because I've had like, I don't know, I've had a lot of water bottles, and I still do, just because I plan on getting like future pets. But sometimes the balls inside does not work, and you have to like always test it to make sure it's actually working. Now we have like your bases situated. We're going to add a little bit more enrichment, and then your hamster cage should be complete. So now the final things that we need to do is add in our sprays. Obviously you can find a lot of sprays on Etsy, depending on where you stay. It's like easier to have access to, but if you stay in the United States like me, then you know it's basically impossible to find sprays without having to pay like $20 for shipping. So obviously a way to avoid this is just getting your basic millet sprays. You can literally get these for like $3 or $4. Even sometimes I'm pretty sure I've seen the less before. So these are just the millet sprays, just a great foraging, and it brings out some of their natural behavior. So here's just a millet spray. I absolutely love these, so I'm probably gonna get this to him after. But you can just sit this anywhere you want. Add in your sprays. You can literally get those for $3 or $4. So it's super cheap. And then the last thing that you want, and I will say, I know I didn't mention my hamster wheel, just because I have a whole video dedicated to hamster wheels. So your hamster wheel is completely, I mean, that part is up to you. There's a whole bunch of different hamster wheels you can have. Just make sure it's the right size. Obviously you probably don't want one that's loud, so you can always, before you buy it, just test spin it, or you can just, when you're searching, you just put in for silent spinners. So the last thing we're going to add in is our herbs. So you can find herbs, like the cheapest ones I've ever saw was either from Amazon or from my Petco/PetSmart. They literally would have for like $1.99 for like a pack of herbs. And it's actually one of the ones that's mixed inside of here. Obviously, you just want to get some herbs and you just sprinkle it around. And this just adds another foraging, and it gives your hamster something else to be able to do while they're inside their enclosure and while they're in there at night. And that is basically my hamster cage setup. I'm gonna show you guys the full thing. Here's just a basic outline of like how your hamster cage can look. Obviously, as time goes and get more stuff you can, but this is for mainly like trying to stay on the budget. So I'm just gonna show you like your essentials to at least have a happy hamster. And obviously your wheel will go in here somewhere. Hamster, I didn't show this, but I would definitely add a sand bath somewhere. So you can just pick a random corner and and you can put like cardboard to block it off. I would recommend using cardboard just because Bendy Bridges, they still can get stuck along this part. So I would recommend just still using cardboard, and you can block off the area. Or you can get a super cheap tray from like the dollar store for like literally like $2 and use that as a sand bath. But if you do, either have it completely on the ground or have it on top of something that can hold the weight, which is like one of your little platforms. So it'd be like your multi-chamber or like your hideout, depending on what you use. But if you use cardboard DIYs, I would definitely recommend just putting it on the floor, just so that the weight. But here it is. It's just a basic way to have a hamster cage set up. And yeah, if you use sand, I would definitely recommend getting children's play sand and just making sure you bake it. There's a lot of videos on how to do that if you need to, but definitely just bake it before you do, just to make sure you kill off anything that's in there, and it will give you a huge bag for like less to nothing. It's a nice budget-friendly hamster cage setup without having to splurge so much. Alright, thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe, and also ring that bell to know if I ever upload. I promise I'm getting back to uploading a lot better. I swear I feel like I basically like declined in the house uploading just because I had so much going on, but I am definitely back and I'm super excited for October. My whole videos for that month, except I think one, is all October thing, so you definitely don't want to miss that. But if you'd like to see more videos like this, for more budget friendly things, then do let me know. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you all in my next week's video. Bye.